Okay, so we are at the virtual reality meeting, and we are looking at some new hardware, right?
Yeah, this is the DK2, which is the new development kit that Oculus just released, and it actually has a couple new features. One being positional tracking, so that it uses an IR webcam that reads IR LEDs on the headset and allows you to move your head around, and it tracks the position of your head. And that's really cool for game features like looking out a window or looking around a corner, things like that. But even more important than what it's used for is to get the precise position of your head. So as even if you're in a fixed spot and you're turning your head doesn't really rotate on a point. It actually will arc around. And so things like that and having that proper movement reduce things like motion sickness, because you get very accurate position of your the view in relation to where you're looking. So it's really important for making it feel very stable, and also to reduce any kind of feelings of motion sickness and things like that.
So how long has this new product been out? It's called the DK2, right?
Right, yeah. So it's Development Kit 2, and it's was just released in the end of July. And they probably have shipped out maybe about 10,000 of I think there's about 40,000 pre-orders. Most of them, a lot of them going to developers, and then a lot more going to enthusiasts that wanted to shell out the money for something like this, because it's definitely not a consumer version. It's got a lot of issues, so it's not something that consumers should be buying. But a lot of the enthusiasts help out developers a lot too by trying stuff out, so it's great that a lot of enthusiasts have taken the effort to go and get it and play games and give feedback and all that.
That's cool. So how much would the DK2 run you then, since it's not for consumers?
Well, the development kit, they've been always targeting around $300. The first one is $300. This one is a little more, it's $350. But this has the webcam, the IR tracking solution, and it also has a larger resolution panel in it, so it's gone up to a 1080p panel instead of a 720 or a 1280 by 800 panel, so it's significantly higher resolution. The panel is also special in the way that it works, because it turns the pixels on and off very fast, which is called low persistence, and that basically means that as you move your head, the pixels are on very, very quickly, so that you don't get smearing of the image. So everything looks very solid, very stable, as if it was floating there right in front of you in space, and you could reach out and touch it. So those two technologies, the positional tracking and the low persistence panel and the higher resolution panel, help a lot with making it a much more comfortable experience. And I've, having shown it to a number of people and trying it myself, I can definitely attest to it being a much, much better experience than the first development kit. And then the final version will be coming out probably in a year or so. We don't know yet, and that'll actually be another upgrade in resolution, frame rate, and everything. And the ergonomics will be a lot better too. It'll be a lot smaller, probably lighter, and everything.
So talk me through the different components that make up the DK2 kit. So let's talk about the headpiece, the eyes, and the...
Yeah, so what comes with it is the headset itself, which has the IR LEDs underneath that work with the camera that comes with it.
And those are the goggles, right?
Yeah, so the goggles are right there, and then the IR LEDs actually sit under the case. You can't see them because the case blocks visible light, but the IR light actually goes through it. And the camera is like a regular web camera with a little cover on it that blocks visible light as well, and it will take a picture very quickly, lots of pictures of that headset, and see those LEDs that are all flashing. And you don't see any of that because it's all infrared light. And that basically is what allows you to do the positional tracking. And those are the two main pieces. Then you have the cabling that goes with it, which goes from the headset to the computer with HDMI, and then you have a USB connector there as well. And then you also tie the camera with a USB port, and it has also a sync cable as well to tie the syncing of the two things together. So.
What about the headphones? I see that he's wearing some really big headphones on his ears. What is the purpose of the headphones?
So those are my headphones. Those are actually a really nice pair of noise reduction headphones. So the idea is that you can kind of get immersed in the space. So audio is like almost just as important as the video. And Oculus is actually working on that as well. They're going to be working on basically providing a way to do binaural audio, which basically means that as you turn your head, the audio, wherever it's positioned, sounds correctly based on your head position.
Awesome.
So it's like in real life, and so that's, and it's also they're working on things like latency of audio as well, because you want the audio that you're hearing in sync with the visuals and everything else, and your movement and everything. So audio is just as important as visuals, and these are just a nice pair of headphones that do noise reduction that I have.
Okay, so it's not a part of the kit,
no,
but it definitely enhances the experience,
yeah,
right?
but they're definitely working on some kind of audio solution. They probably won't have like something that you buy with it, like you'll just plug in your own stuff, but you never know if they come up with something fancy.
And also in his hands, it's just a regular sort of a game stick or a joystick for video games. We're not seeing it right now, but that's just a regular sort of...
Yeah, so that's just an Xbox 360 gamepad, which is kind of what everyone's been using as a standard, because obviously, especially with this, you can't even reach the keyboard, so you need some other solution. And that's sort of like, I guess, the low-end default thing that will sort of be expected for most games. But it's likely that Oculus is working on some kind of input solution, which may involve actual like hand tracking in space in front of you, so you can actually move your hands around and have them in the world as well, so you can go in there and manipulate things and interact with the world. How that'll work, we don't know yet. You know, whether it's like the Leap Motion, where it's gestures and you have fingers that move around, or if it's more like the STEM system, where you just have a fixed like tracker and you have buttons and sticks and things, triggers on that device that you can then sort of mimic like guns or swords or anything else you want to play around with. And I think there's really cool lightsaber demos going now with the STEM system in DK2, where you're actually having like lightsaber duels with the lasers firing at you, and you have to block them with the lightsabers and stuff like that. And it's actually really, really cool.
So let's continue to talk about the different pieces that make up the set. You said there's a cord, and I'm looking at a cord right now, and it's going to connect to the computer. If I zoom in on your system here, can you kind of point out what we're seeing with your setup?
Yeah, so there's a long cable going from the headset to the computer that is actually a bundle of the HDMI connector, an HDMI video cable, a long one, and a USB cable that also goes to the headset. So that makes one cable that's bundled that goes from the headset to the computer. And then there's a camera on top of the computer, which is the IR camera that tracks.
And that's that blue light that we see, right?
And that has two cables that come out of it. One is a USB cable that goes to the computer, and then there's also a sync, what they call a sync cable, that plugs into the little block that's on the end of the other cables. So it's basically a way for them to connect, do the syncing, I think, of the LEDs with what they're seeing on the camera, because everything has to be timed, down to the millisecond. And so there's some stuff that I think they had to do. Again, it may become simpler as well. I mean, again, this is a development kit, so they're doing stuff that, probably wouldn't be, in a consumer version. They might have it all bundled into one cable and things like that.
That would definitely be more convenient. I definitely think so.
Yeah, the consumer version will also probably be much smaller, lighter, things like that. They're really going to target it to have really good ergonomics to make it very comfortable and easy to wear.
Now, unfortunately, we're not able to see what he is seeing, so I'm hoping that at the end of his experience, maybe you could put the goggles up to the camera so that the viewers can really get a sense. And get a sense of.
You can look at a little bit. So it's basically just like a stereo view of the game world, and with your eyes looking at a different sort of rendered image based on your eye position, you get a stereoscopic view, so that basically makes it look like the real world. So everything looks in like a real world scale. And as you look around, it's like turning your head and seeing different places. As you look around.
Now, before I forget, I want to make sure that you introduce yourself and the types of games that you like to design, and what really got you interested in using VR as the avenue to do that.
Yeah, so this game is actually a treasure hunting game where you basically wander around an island and you can find treasure on the island and also underwater, and you search like shipwrecks and ruins and so on, and you have to deal with sharks coming after you and things like that. So it's very casual, fun game, very simple gameplay, so I decided to do it mainly because it was, swimming around is very slow movement, and so it's a very easy kind of game to get into and things like that in VR. It's not a lot of like flying or falling or jumping around, which tends to cause motion sickness. I mean, even with the best device, the content can still cause motion sickness just because your brain is seeing one thing and not feeling it, so it's out of sync. And so if you're moving and not really moving, or you're seeing movement but not really moving, you can still get motion sickness even with the best device possible. So the game design is very important. I'm also interested in working on other things that involve more like arcade games and so on, and that's partly related to the fact that the CV1, the consumer version, is going to be even higher spec. So it's going to be a higher resolution panel running at 90 frames per second. So it'll be a 1440p panel at 90 frames per second, which is pretty much going to stress like even the most powerful graphic cards in existence.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So the idea is a lot of us developers are starting to think about building stuff that's really, really simple so that it can actually run at high performance on current hardware. And so I'm actually thinking about some other ideas I want to do, more arcade game related, going back,
bring it back to the
stuff,
old school,
but in VR, new like cool like takes on sort of old arcade techniques or whatever. So I think that's what we're going to see a lot of like in the first crop of games in the first years or two. And then once graphics cards, NVIDIA and AMD catch up and can pump out the kind of graphics we need, then you might start seeing some of those really impressive like AAA games with really, really nice like graphics and image effects and all kinds of like the stuff you see now, on 2D screens. That'll probably be a few years away at least.
Sounds cool.
So we're actually trying to put the camera right up to the lens of the DK2 so you can just see what it's like to look through it. So it's actually just showing part of the game where it's a dock and a boat, and you can actually walk out there and go in the water and everything. Unfortunately, I can't really turn it around.
So if we back up just a little bit.
Can I get the controller? Do you want to hold it for a
I'll
second?
hold this and you get the controller.
I mean, ideally it would be... So what you can do is I can actually turn the avatar around, and you should be able to see. I don't know if this is going to work. It's kind of hard. I need to like tilt the camera to like get it to position.
Oh, perfect. That's a good
angle. So you can see now I'm turning the avatar around with the controller, and you can actually see the there's like a little hut there that you can walk in, and that's actually your home base where you have a map and your scores and everything like that. It's a little hard to see. And then obviously as you move the headset around, if you turn it, you actually get like a different view as if you're turning your head. And then of course positioning, you can see it actually like moving, somewhat there. It's really kind of hard to see, but you can get a little bit of an idea there of what's in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the lens off, and you can see what's actually going on inside, which if I can get it off. So there you see there's just a panel in there, which is actually a Samsung phone panel from the, I think, Galaxy 3 or 4. I don't know which one it is. And it's actually a Samsung phone panel. So if you took it apart, it actually says Samsung on it. And that's what they used for this. And so you can see there's one image of the one side of, like, one eye image, one camera view. And it's actually got like the barrel warp. And that's to basically compensate for, like, when you put the lens back in, it basically is pre-warping the image so it comes out right with the simpler lenses that we have here.
Also, can you kind of describe the different components of this headset so that the viewers can kind of see what makes up this whole piece right here?
Right. So we saw like there's a frame with the panel attached to it, and then there's the lenses here.
I'm going to back up a little bit because it's really close. I can't see all the pieces that we're talking about.
And so you have the headset, the lenses. You have a panel inside that we saw, like, sort of one half of. There's one panel. There's not two, and it's just you just use one half of it for each eye. And this thing is like a cover, and you might actually be able to see in the camera. Yeah, you can't see the LEDs, but there's actually all these LEDs underneath this this black plastic that the infrared light will go through, but you can't see through it with visible light. It doesn't go through.
Hold it for just 1 second. I'm gonna. Yeah, there we go. All right.
Yeah.
Great.
And then that's actually used by the camera for the head tracking. And then of course there's some electronics boards, and there's the sensor for doing, like, the rotational stuff and some other things. They do quite a bit of sensor, different types of sensors, and they fuse all the data together to make it work.
All right, and this here is just the regular handpiece that.
Yeah, this is just an Xbox 360 controller. It's pretty straightforward. Everyone will know about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you so much. I'm gonna get you in the shot just so we can see who our expert was, who was talking to us. And can I just have your first name?
Yeah, Michael.
Michael, thank you so much.